there is something special about telling a story about your school or having, your perspective. I remember when this happened, like, do we still do this? Can we find a way to talk about this?
We are surrounded by content. Content shapes who we follow, how we lead, what we buy, and even what we believe. Welcome to the Content Generation Podcast, a class intercom production where we focus on the stories that come to life in schools all over the world. We highlight the students, educators, and communities who share the content that shapes our future. Welcome back to the Content Generation Podcast. Dr. Jill, it is fun to be back with you, even though we're not in the same spot. We've been moving a lot of different places, so welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. Great to be here, and always good to be back on the pod.
So many things to be thankful for around Thanksgiving. So whether you're listening to this before or after, so many things to be thankful for in school communication. The fact that students are getting educated. Jill, what are you thankful for?
Yeah, I am thankful for so many things personally, but I would say professionally, it's just really fun this fall coming off our Content Gen workshop and then seeing so many schools just excited about having not just student content creators, but adult content creators and even parent content creators. So much to be thankful for in this world of positive storytelling.
Absolutely. I think you're going to love this podcast interview. I got to spend some time with Derrian. You've had more time with her in the past. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that really stuck out to me that I think was incredible was listening to her perspective in an incredibly tough, as we call them, hot comms moment with her school district, a school district she feels deeply passionate about. She grew up there. She went to school there. She has connections with some of the teachers that were her favorite teachers, but also she's coming to us from our friends up north in Canada, which also inspires a great accent. Additionally, but also what's really fun is she's connecting and grateful in these moments where hot comms is really hot. And boy, has that been a challenging moment for many school comms folks in Canada.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We have several clients in the Alberta area in Canada, and they've been anticipating this teacher strike for quite some time. When the date finally hit that the teachers said they would strike, it happened. So dealing with that kind of crisis, I never had to deal with that personally as a teacher or on the other side as an administrator or school communicator. So working through that. And then they recently had a return to work mandate. So now they've got staff coming back and there hasn't been a real resolution. So try to be the communicator in that crisis, right? You're dealing with all sorts of, it's not a welcome back staff. It's a very fine line to walk. And I think Derrian and Cindy and several of our other clients in the Alberta area have done a fantastic job walking that walk.
Derrian handles it with such grace, but I want to acknowledge some of the challenges in that type of perspective that you have parents who are now home with their kids. Mm-hmm. Education is not happening. You have some teachers who weren't on strike and some who were on strike. You've got administration who's typically continuing to operate and try to open things back up. And then you have school comms in the middle trying to navigate all of those really unique perspectives. And one of the things she handles really well is understanding that you have so many layers to those perspectives and that she needs other content creators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's like when your head is so full of all the crazy that's happening in any type of crisis, you need to have the perspective of those other voices, right? Telling those positive stories, unearthing those positive stories, making sure all of that continues to happen. So,
yeah. One of the really unique things is she's also won some awards. We're going to talk about that. But Dr. Jill, I'm really excited for you to listen to this podcast with Derrian.
Yeah, everybody's going to love Derrian. She's hard to not love.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the Content Generation Podcast. I am really excited for you all to meet Derrian. Derrian, it's great to have you on the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I've heard so much about you, and as I've gotten to know you a little bit, you come with a rich background of stories, being in your school district where you grew up. Would love to understand a little bit of how you ended up in a communications role for a school.
Yeah, so I grew up, I'm from Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada. So this is where I've grown up. I'm born and raised. And the position kind of came up. Well, I've always loved storytelling. Like, I don't know, when I was in grade 7 and the teacher would say, like, do up a presentation. I had like a narrator character, and I had a character for each slide. And like, it could not just be a presentation, right? It had to be a story. It had to have a theme, and there had to be a plot. And it was about like a war. Like, it was like really basic information, but I've always like really, I guess, been creative and have wanted to make everything into like a big story. Even like being on a podcast, I was like, I'm gonna like want to have a podcast after this because I just think that's so fun. So yeah, I guess I've always kind of been a storyteller. So when I graduated high school, I went into communications and marketing, and then right when I wrapped up my program, the division had a 0.5 position for a communications officer, and that was a brand new position in our city. Like we have 3 school divisions, and one of them had a position, and it was brand new for our organization. So,
and what's a 0.5 position? Is that a first
like
job?
half-time.
Okay.
Like
okay.
Yeah. So half-time. So kind of not casual, but not like a full-time FTE. So yeah, I applied for it. My mom was like, you need to shoot your shot. And I was like, I don't know, like if I just got out of school. And so I came to the interview, and it was intimidating but successful. And so then that's what got me into education and communications. I've been doing that since 2016. That's when I started. I was just a baby, and the role has grown and changed so much since I started, like, again, as a 0.5, and then people really start to see value in intentional communications and internal strategy. And, it's more than just like social media reach, even though that was a huge reason why the position was there, was just to kind of get the division's name out there and to get some content. Like, it was kind of like a reporter style position at first, and then kind of has grown into now I'm the director of communications, and it's corporate communications, and it's advertising, and it's, all encompassing. So it's changed and grown a lot in the last, 10 years.
Yeah. When you say some of this crisis and some of the value that's come from people recognizing that, what happened in your?
What happened? Yeah, it's funny because it's all fluffy. Like, communications, I think, to people who aren't in these roles is fluffy, and it's fun, and it's video, and it's mics, and it's ring lights and reels. But really, I think the value started to be seen in the role when we had our first. It was a hold and secure at one of our schools. There was like a danger in the area, and for the first time, there was like a strategy in place on like how we're going to communicate with parents. And when we have emergency response protocol, we're going to get a call from the school. We're going to handle everything for you. We're going to post on your website. We're going to have timestamps on everything. We're going to connect with your parents. Like, you at the school get to focus on your building and not worry or stress about communicating with families. And so the first hold and secure that we had, it was like, oh, this is really great. It's more than just, social media. And then from there, aside from emergency response, it kind of took like one at every school for everyone to go, oh, that was really helpful. And then COVID happened. So that's a huge factor in, I think, people understanding the need to have, timely updates and someone who filters information and sends it to tailored messages to the different audiences and stuff. So yeah, it's really, I feel like it takes a crisis to remind people of the value of communications roles. But
Right. And in your area too, the most recent thing has been collective bargaining and
Collective bargaining,
right. So there was a teacher strike.
Yes. And so that was,
when did that occur?
so it's November 18th now, or it was October.
Okay.
It was just a little bit over 3 weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, going into that, I think there's so many layers that people don't realize exist. And that's that, the organization is separate from the union, being mindful of, how we're communicating, the tone that we're using, and that we're sometimes communicating one message to 10 different, feelings and opinions and audiences. It's more complex than people think. And I think a lot more emotion and energy goes into those communications when people think, oh, that was a nice letter. Like that letter, like I care deeply about every word that I put in that letter because I'm thinking about how everybody perceives this. And, because it's political, because there's union and there's staff involved and there's non-unionized staff and unionized staff. And there's parents with kids at home that are happy that their kids are at home. And there's parents that are at home that are like, I had to take off a time from work to be home with my kids, right? There's all these different audiences. There's kids that are happy. There's kids that have final exams coming up and a play that they want to get to and football that they want to do on their senior year, that everything was canceled. So, when you're communicating to all those different audiences, there's a lot that goes into that. And I just think people don't always realize that. And they don't have to, because that's my job, is to realize that. But
right.
Sometimes people do when you're in a crisis.
That's it's an incredible experience. I think from school communication, that like the perspective that you have in working with a teacher strike that lasted a few weeks, that meant no school. That's a really, really incredibly complex situation to navigate. How did you do it?
Lots of coffee. No.
Yeah.
You know what? We have a pretty good team. Like I'm a communications team of one, but my senior leadership, there's a lot of autonomy in this position. They trust my judgment, and so we really just kind of centralized all of our communication. We use class intercom. We had the ability to we would post on all of the platforms, kind of to say that, effective on Monday, October 6th. I'm pretty sure that was the day. It's like ingrained in my brain. On Monday, October 6th, schools will not be communicating. So we sent out social media posts. We had everything kind of streamlined. Schools knew that they weren't communicating outside of the organization. So everything kind of filtered through here. But because of a role like this, that was able to happen. I think if there isn't a communications role, where does that go? Just nobody knows what to do. So they look here. They are excellent at allowing centralized communication. And so, everything kind of filtered through here, and everything also kind of went silent unless there was really important information to be shared. So actionable information, which for a couple weeks in there really wasn't. There was just behind the scenes stuff. So we have a timeline on our website. Time stamped to the minute. If I found something out, we'd get it out there, encourage people to check back. And but everything was time stamped. And that I learned from COVID was a great tool. And people, that was really well received from staff and families who were trying to keep up with, the different negotiation pieces and what was happening next.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad to know that you're on the other side of it, and you're working in the same school and the same district, or you don't call them districts, correct?
They can be districts, or we're a division, but they're districts. It's all.
There you go. There you go. And in your division, you're in the same division you grew up in.
Yes.
How has that been as an experience?
It's like a homecoming. There's something nostalgic about going back to the school that you went to kindergarten in. And, we're not a super small town, but we're not a big city. So even our executive assistant, her mom taught me kindergarten, and I didn't know her until she got a job here. And so now I'm like, how's Mrs. Crush? She's my kindergarten teacher. But working in the schools, we're definitely, there's a family vibe. We're a smaller school division, which, when I first started, and I would meet communications professionals in large organizations with 200 schools, like I would be like, wow, that's amazing. Like, we're so small, but being small is actually so special. There's so many more like opportunities for like authentic connection and relationship building. And we don't have to send out these giant surveys all the time because we are surveys. Like our conversations are surveys, and we get to have those relationships with people. And it actually only makes my job easier because I get to just like talk. I get to just go to the schools and say, how's it going? But yeah, I love like going into my old elementary school, my junior high, and some of the teachers are still there, and some of the teachers are principals now. So we sit around the same tables, and you can tell a story no matter what. I think it's easy. It's not hard to tell stories from schools because schools, they're full of stories. There's so many good things, amazing things happening in schools, but there is something special about telling a story about your school or having, your perspective. I remember when this happened, like, do we still do this? Can we find a way to talk about this?
Yeah.
So that was a huge, I think, benefit when I first started, as well as kind of just like trying to pull these stories and being like, I remember when I went to Camp McCoy. This is something that everyone does in Medicine Hat. We go to Camp McCoy in grade 6. And so, pulling those stories. It's nice working where you're.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was just at the adjacent elementary school to the one that I went to, and it was the same vintage building, same thing. And I was looking at the heater in the corner thinking, oh, that needs some crayons in it to be melting. And if I could smell those, then I would be right back in 4th grade. But so funny. You've been doing a bunch of things with student content creators in your district. Tell me a little bit about how you've been working with students. And if I remember right, you won an award for some of that activity.
Yes, we have. So in Canada, we have a Canadian Association for Communicators in Education. So similar to NSPRA. Is that how you say it?
NSPRA, yeah.
Yeah. So we have CASE, which is what we're called. And so every year we get together for our annual conference, and we have awards sponsored by Bravo. They're called Bravo Awards. And so you can submit communications projects. There's a category for communications projects and a category for coup de coeurs, which is kind of just like one-off fun communications pieces. So one of the ones that I submitted this year, they are assessed like anonymously by a panel of like 40 communications professionals, like not in education. So it's really special, I think, when you get the recognition, because the panel is really, it's a really like vast, great group of professionals. So this is the Student Media Press Pass. So you might recognize like Class Intercom, right? So this inspired by the pass that I got when we signed up with Class Intercom, but kind of just took it to another level. Dr. Jill and I talked about it, and she's like, this is really cool. And I didn't realize it was that cool until like I probably wouldn't have shown anybody else. But so we have like our Student Media Press Badge, and because of all the cell phone bans in schools, right, it's really tricky to get students to be able to, whip out their phones and grab content. So everyone on my student media team, they have a badge like this. And then on the back, there's kind of like a code of conduct, so that if someone wants to be like, what are you doing with your phone out? They can check it out. And with a QR code that links to our division, like a web page that hosts information, our AP for our cell phone policy, explaining that they're on the student media team and they're allowed to have their devices. It's got their pictures on it too, and some resources for them when they're on the go as well. So if they're on the go and they need to utilize something, they can just scan it and on their way. So I tried to make it
So
fun.
what's in your code of conduct for students? What do you tell them, or what do you put on the badge?
Yeah, we have, it kind of changes all the time because it's linked to a web page, but really like, the badge just says that they're like an official member of the student media team, that they have permission to use their phones for photography, videography, content creation. They're expected to follow school guidelines, respect privacy, and represent the division with integrity and professionalism. Also a reminder to capture, create, and celebrate. That's like kind of like what we like. That's our motto with our student content creators. Right now, it's just a team of 3. They're wonderful, and I've had the dream of having student content creators for years, and I wasn't able to do it until class intercom came into my life, because that single sign-on is such a game changer that now I'm able to work with students. You can always work with students, and so I guess we did, but just so much more seamless now, having the single sign-on, and they can upload their content and we can go back and forth and edit it. And and it also makes them feel really good, I think, to be able to directly kind of post and not just sending it to someone else to post, to be a part of it and to practice as well, because it's intimidating posting on platforms for the first time, especially by your organization. How do I say that? Or what's my corporate voice? What's your corporate voice? It's not as easy as people think.
Oh, well, and so often when I work with students, you think that they're just going to be really quick to publish, and then all of a sudden you put them in front of a different brand, and you freeze at first, right? So how did you come up with this through the 3 C's that you referenced: capture, collaborate, and celebrate, right? How did you come up with those?
Capture, create, and celebrate. I just feel like it's what I wanted them to do, and they just happen to be C's. Yeah, there was really not. It's not that deep. It just is. I kind of wanted them to just remember that's our goal, right? It's just to capture, create, and celebrate. It's just to have fun with it, and that's what I really want. I don't want for these students, it's no pressure. There's pressure because we want to be professional, we want to create good content, but really content creation. The most authentic stories that we pull come from not a place of pressure. They come from just a space of creativity and fun. And so I just wanted to remind them that that's the foundation of kind of what we're doing when they're out and doing their thing.
How has that started to affect people's perception of your role and, throughout the school system? How has that sort of affected that perception?
I think it's been really positive. Even just the first couple times the girls were out, they're at our local high school, they're at our division's high school, so we only have one. But the first couple times they were out, I had people sending me messages saying they're doing such a good job, they're so professional, and I feel like it's a feather in my cap because we go through that orientation process and there's some training and behind the scenes, but they're also just really good kids, and I love giving them this opportunity. And so when they sign up to be on the student media team, they get work experience credits as well. So that supports their the credits that they need to graduate. So kind of everyone wins. They get mentorship. They get credits. We've collaborated with local photographers this one photographer, his name's Colton McKee, and he's come out with us, and he's come with us to football games, and he's trained the girls and given them hands-on photography tips, which it's priceless mentorship. And it's become, even just in a few months with a 3-week strike, because we only started the program in September and it's November now. And so even with a 3-week break, the amount of growth that they've had and the amount of learning opportunities they've had, and the content that they've created has exceeded my expectations. And I think everyone around me, it's exceeded everyone's expectations. So it's always growing and changing. And I think, every time you make a plan, God laughs, right? It's we think we know what it's going to be. And this is one of those, I think, where it's just better than I could have expected. And it's only the beginning.
That's awesome. Well, I love to hear what you're doing, helping students, inspiring them to celebrate. And then as you think about what's next for content creation, for communication for your school district, what sorts of things come to mind for you?
So we're really working on strategic communications. I think for the first time ever, we have been... Not ever, but for the first time ever, it's leaving just my desk. And I'm kind of trying to use my voice to inspire the schools to be a little bit more strategic in how they communicate. It's not just about being out there, but it's about using your platforms to share, certain messages that you want to convey. So last November, I did a PD session that won a Communications Award of Excellence at CASE, and it was a comms camp PD. So it's a session that I did with the administrators. It was a camping theme. So there was a campfire and there's a communication s'more, and it kind of took all these pieces, and it taught administrators how to use, our newsletter, our social media, our website, even like our school secretaries like play a huge role in communications, right? Like, and I just don't think everybody thinks that way. So that mind shift set is really what I'm working on, what I've been working on for the last year, and what I feel like I'm continuing to work on. You have to repeat. We have to repeat, and we have to really like ingrain it into our culture. But a lot of focus on having schools communicate with intention, based on your strategic priorities, based on how you want your school to be perceived. So like I started out with saying, like name 3 words that you would like people to like recognize your school for. Like, what are 3 words you want people to think of when they think of your school? And they wrote them down. And then we went on a digital hike, and they went, through their platforms, and they went on their websites, and they went on their social media, and they were supposed to look for like visuals or those keywords and how they're represented. And some of them were like, oh, it's right there. It's on my homepage. And some of them were like, yeah, I didn't really see that anywhere. Like, you want to be known for sports, but there's no sports. You're not updating your website. You're not posting on your socials about your teams. And so I think it was like the beginning of, opening people's eyes to like the value of being intentional and strategic with your communications. And it's not just a division, like it's a division job, and it stems from here, but like anyone can be intentional with their communications, how someone answers the phone, or, I can get parents to the door for an orientation, but like if all you're talking about is the infrastructure, but you're not talking about like the love or like, the connection, like I can't help you with that. Right. So yeah, I kind of went a little bit over here with that, but
no, I think that's fantastic. I think I'm going to take part of this away from your talk is thinking about a digital hike as a way to think about bringing things back to strategy. And I think you're doing a wonderful job of leadership. The communication we're seeing from your accounts is fantastic, and love seeing your engagement with students and faculty. So it's been wonderful to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.